but through the visual gifting of art. So I'll show you quickly the painting, and at the very end, I'll show you the painting in a little more detail. But I'll just show you to give you a little sneak peek. It's a diptych, which means that there's two, and it's pretty large. As you can see, it's definitely larger than life. She's bigger than I am. She definitely has a bigger face than I do. But she represents a courageous woman. And the collection is going to be fun because it's going to have a lot of amazing things that are all very similar to this painting, which you will see as I make them. But the word is this. So I believe in this season, many of you and many people in the earth are in a transition season and in a battle season, because when there's a transition, whether it's an internal transition of your heart or an external transition that's happening around you, whenever there's a transition, there's a call for courage and stepping into some type of battle. Now, Deborah in the Bible, who was a judge and a prophetess, she was an amazing woman. God said to her, it's time for battle. And so she told Barak, who was the leader of the armies, she said, hey, God has called you to enter this battle. He was afraid. He didn't want to go into battle, but he did. She came with him. You can read about the story. I'm not going to tell the details, but I will tell you this. They went into this battle and they won the battle. You know why? Because God was the one who invited them into that battle. Not every battle in life that we engage in is a battle worth engaging in. There are some battles that God never invites us to go into. We just want to fight. Whatever that is, I don't know what that means for you, but all I'm going to say is that I know that sometimes we want to get into mental battles, we want to go down spirals, and God's not invited us to go there. Or we want to fix someone's problems, and God's not invited us to go there. So make sure that the battle you're fighting is the one that God is saying, I want you to fight. And when God asks you to fight a battle, He will always be there before you. And this is why they won the battle. They won the battle because they went there, their army and Deborah, they went into this battle, but God had a plan that they didn't know about. He didn't tell them His plan. He just tells us go. He doesn't tell us what He's going to do. We just know if God says go, we just do it in faith, right? We do it because we know He's a good Father, and He wouldn't ask us to do something and mess us around in that. And so the Bible tells us that He goes to the army of Sisera, the enemy army, and He confuses them. So when they get there, this army is confused and they win the battle. And then there's some other surprise fun elements you can read about in your Bible. But the point is, everything that happened in that battle, it was God's provision for a miracle. God had gone there. And so it's like, guys, just think of God. Sometimes we think of God as like this ethereal thing. God is living, breathing, glorious Lord of all. He's a person. He has emotions and feelings. We're actually created in His image. We're very much like Him. And so when He says, engage in a battle, I'm going to be with you, He is 100% committed to us. And He wants to fight for us. And He wants to be in partnership. And so they came in partnership, even though they were scared. Barak was scared. Maybe the army was scared. They were afraid. But He met them by confusing the other side. And so God will always do that with us. The problem is when we engage in a battle, we don't know. Like when we engage in a battle, we don't know what the answer is going to be. We don't know if we're going to win or lose. And sometimes we're afraid to do it. And yes, there are battles that we lose. Yes, there are battles that we lose. But I'm talking about strategic battles that God calls us into. And by the way, when we do lose battles, we never really lose, because God is always on the throne, and God is always bigger and better than we could ever imagine, and He can redeem any situation, even losses. But we're talking about when you're called into a battle by God and how God will meet you in that battle. Now, for some of you, your battles may be internal battles that you're called into. And sometimes, like, I will tell you this, sometimes you'll know God is calling me to start a ministry. He's calling me to have a voice in culture, or He's calling me whatever the battle is. But there are times where you don't actually hear God speak to you, or you don't see it in the Bible, but you know that there's a call to battle when there is pain. Pain, God's taught me and is teaching me, because I really haven't learned that fully well. Let me tell you, it's a hard lesson. Pain is never pleasant, but pain is often necessary. because pain will tell us where something is wrong. It is informational. So if we are struggling, for example, with an internal problem, like we're struggling with depression, we're struggling with whatever, anxiety or whatever it is, maybe demonic stuff, whatever it is that we're struggling with, when we feel that pain, there's this invitation. It's time to fight. It's time to fight for your soul, for your emotional wellness, for your spiritual wellness, right? If you're feeling the pain in a relationship, in a marriage, in a parental relationship, in a friendship, it's time to fight for that relationship, which means hard work. Hard work and patience is often what the battle is. If you have a dream and a desire for something, but you're afraid to step into it because it's going to require so much courage, but you really have that dream, hey, that dream and that desire is oftentimes a sign from the Lord. It's time to step in. And if fear is the thing that's holding us back, that is an absolute sign that we need to move forward. When fear comes at us, we have to push through that fear, like Deborah and Barak did. And once they had won the battle, Deborah calls out all the people that God had also called to the battle but didn't go, because there were lots of people in Israel that God called to that battle, but they didn't go. And she calls them out by name, each tribe that didn't go, and she said, hey, Asher, you hid wherever you hid, and I can't remember all the names of them, but she said, hey, you hid in the caves, or you stayed by the ships, or you were there in the comfortable place of this or that. And basically what she was saying is, when called into a battle, it's actually easier to check out. I'd rather go and sit on my couch, right, than try and fight for my health, or then figure out what's going with my finances and make things right, or do something courageous in the earth. I'd rather just lie on my couch, or I'd rather just think about it and dream about it and overthink it for 20 years because I'm too afraid to step into it, than actually step into it when I actually never feel ready. And guess what? You will never feel ready for a battle. Very few people feel ready for the battle. Barak didn't feel ready, but he won the battle. Look in the Bible. Tons of people were called into things. They didn't feel ready, but they did it because God called them. And sometimes pain is a sign that the battle is calling us. And guys, don't check out. So the word I want to give you today, like this really powerful word, it's actually one line. Remember it. It's what Deborah said, these words. She coined a phrase, and she said this. After they won the war, and they were rejoicing, so happy, she sang a song. And she said these words. She said, march on, my soul, be strong. It was a declaration that she made to herself. And it was a declaration that she made to herself continually through the battle. March on, my soul, be strong. March on, my soul, be strong. We look at Deborah and we think, oh, she was a courageous warrior. She wasn't afraid. It was just Barak. He was afraid. But she had to speak to her soul, march on, my soul, be strong. You know why? Because she was fighting fear. Because she didn't want to do the battle. She didn't want to be in the front line of a male battle. I mean, think of that. She was the only woman in the battle. She was a prophetess. She wasn't a warrior. She didn't have the military ability to fight. But she said, march on, my soul, be strong. Guys, that is whatever you're going through. Listen, you may not be going through a blood and gore battle, literally. But you may be going through internal battle, and it feels like a blood battle. Or something else in your life. Perseverance is so important, but so is declaration. So declaring those words over yourself is important. I've done that over myself, because I believe that March 2024 going into April 2024, those 2 months are very, very strategic months for the battle, and for us to persevere through whatever it is that we're persevering. And we have to speak to ourselves and tell ourselves to persevere. And if, by the way, if you're listening to this in 2050, I don't know if I've already said this, but if you are, this is for you. It doesn't matter if you're not in 2024, March 2024, April 2024. But guys, there's a word on March and April for this year, very, very strategically. If you're in a battle, it's because you need to win that battle, and you need to push through. And it's a marathon, but there's an end to it. And here's the beautiful thing: every battle in life has an end, and at the end we sing the song of victory. But until we sing the song of victory, it's not fun, always. But if we look and we see that there's an end and there's a victory, we can be strong, we can rejoice in the battle, and we can speak to ourselves, march on, my soul, be strong. Don't be afraid of hard work, and don't be afraid of patience and persevering. I want to tell you something else. James, before I even tell you about James, this is amazing. I have to tell you this. When you go to war, and God is in this war with you, right? I'm not telling you go to a bad war. I'm not telling you like you pick a fight where God has not asked you to pick a fight. But when you go into war, and even like you don't, whatever that looks like for you, I'm not going to go into, I'm not going to explain all that. But I will tell you this: when you engage in a war, there's always, the Lord is there, and so is the angels. God sends angels. He sends angels. He works with angels. There's angelic angels, angelic forces that are with you when you are fighting these battles that God has called you into. And I want to just read you something that Deborah said. She said this: from the heavens, the stars fought for us. She basically says, like, we weren't doing this alone. And she says from the heavens. Now, she wasn't talking about the actual literal planets fighting for them. But I believe she's alluding to the angelic realm that God had released that was fighting for them. Isn't that amazing to think that your fight, you're just the little man in your fight, but God has released angels to help you, and God himself is there. Isn't that just so comforting that there are more that are with you than there are those that are against you? And okay, so we know that we can just be courageous and strong. We can tell ourselves, march on, you're not alone. Okay, so James says this, he says, be patient when you're in this situation, whatever you're in, be patient and persevere. It's so important. And then he gives this illustration I want to share with you. He says, the farmer, he sows his seed, and he has to be impatient. He has to be patient, not impatient. He has to be patient for the rain to come in the spring and the fall. And we often think, I'll just have to pray for the rain. Lord, would you just rain on my finances? Would you rain on my relationships? Would you rain, would you send your revival? And guys, those are good prayers. But if you're not sowing, when that rain comes, maybe your neighbors, you're going to look at your neighbors and go, hey, they got a harvest. All their relationships are looking so whole and blessed. But my relationships, there's nothing happening. Maybe I didn't sow seed in sowing season. Maybe when it was time to go to war, I didn't plant. Because when the rain comes, it's not the rain that brings the harvest. The rain just meets the seed. And if there is no seed in the ground, because we were on the couch, we checked out of the war, nothing will be there when the rain comes. You may look and say, hey, look at them. They got their finances. Suddenly their finances are working. But you never looked after your finances. Or you didn't sow seed financially. You didn't take care of that area of your life, or whatever it is, whatever it is. Victory, it doesn't just fall on us. Victory is something that we engage with heaven and we press forward with him. And sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes we got to march that march, and we got to speak of our soul, and we got to say, march on, my soul, be strong. God is with me in this, and he is going to bring the outcome, and I'm going to be rejoicing. And I'm going to tell you guys, if you are in that place right now where you're speaking of yourselves, march on, my soul, be strong, and you do not give up, there is a harvest waiting for you. And while you're in the battle, in the heat of the battle, when you just want to give up, I'm going to encourage you, stay in peace, stay in internal rest, and speak the word of God over you, because there's life and death is in the power of your tongue. And be like Deborah. Deborah, this courageous warrior, had to speak over herself. So she kept marching into battle until the Lord helped them to win this war. I know you're going to win your war because God is faithful. And God is faithful to you. He's not just faithful to Deborah. He's no respecter of persons. He's not just faithful to Barak. Barak was a coward. He only went because Deborah told him he needed to go. And then he said, well, could you come with me? But you know what? He still reaped the benefit because he still went to war. So guys, even if you're a huge coward, I am so much of a coward so much of the time. But guys, you know what the cool thing is? God doesn't care. He's like, it's okay. You can jump into that with your knees shaking. I am still going to be with you. And I am going to win that war for you when you engage with me. We have to engage. Remember, the rain has to engage with the seed. Remember, when he calls us into battle, because he's going to confound our enemy, we've actually got to march in so that he can engage with us. It's always a two-way street. It's always a two-way street. Remember that, because the rain will come, and if we haven't engaged, we get nothing. God will confuse our enemies, but if the army is not there to fight them, means nothing. Okay, be blessed, guys. I'm going to show my painting now. I hope that encouraged you. All right, so I'm going to try my best. I'm going to take this phone off. Let's just see if this works. Yes, okay. So actually, this painting is created, like a lot of my paintings, with oil paints and also with acrylics. I love color and I love texture, and as you can see, there's gilding as well. And let's see if I can go really close. You can see some of the thick work. There's a lot of thick kind of acrylic work on that. I am going to post the whole painting, which is impossible for me to get the whole painting even if I move out, because unfortunately I am not tall enough to do this, and there isn't a wide lens on this camera. So basically you'll have to wait until it hits my website, which may take a few months. But God bless you guys. And by the way, this is actually part of a book I've just written, which is an amazing book. It's called Beloved, and you got to catch that as well. It's a coffee table book, and it's got all my paintings in and some really cool stuff for you to learn about. All right, God bless you.